Hello, welcome back to the Arturia Profit video series, and today we're dealing with hybrid mode, which basically means we've stuck both the synthesizers together. We've dealt with each of them in their independent right, and they are completely independent synthesizers, but when you combine them together you get cross modulation possibilities open up to you that neither synth on their own can accomplish. Now, the first thing for us to look at when we're discussing hybrid mode is this screen here. It's in the audio effects tab. The top part of the pane is the audio routing table, and this tells us how those two synthesizers are going to mix together. First things first, we can have up to 4 different oscillators. Now, so the VS has 4 oscillators itself, the Prophet 5 has 2, so you could theoretically have 6 oscillators, but in the implementation of this hybrid mode you can't, and we're actually tightly constrained in the combination of oscillators we can have. So slot A can either have oscillator A from VS or A from P5. Similarly with slot B, and then in slot C we only get one choice. We either have the oscillator C from VS or we don't have anything at all, and there we've got D. So in this setup here I've chosen the Prophet 5 to supply the first 2 oscillators and the VS to supply the second 2 oscillators. I've turned everything else off. There's nothing going on of any fanciness in any of the other pages. The modulation matrix is completely disabled. So first things first, let's hear each of the 4 oscillators on its own. Now, just bear in mind, what I just did then should be kind of messing with your brain a little bit, because I moved the VS's joystick over to oscillator A, and yet we're hearing Prophet 5 oscillator. So when you're in hybrid mode, A and B are supplied by the Prophet 5. The VS's oscillators A and B are disabled and have absolutely no part to play in the sound. Doesn't matter what I do with any of these VS controls, you're not going to hear them. So it's great that they've done it, but you just need to be aware that they've done it, because what it gives us is complete flexibility over the joystick to mix between these 4 oscillators. So I'm very happy that this is the way it is. But you need to be aware that these 2 oscillators are actually being fed by the Prophet 5. So here's oscillator B up here. Oscillator C is actually coming from the VS, which means standard control over its oscillator settings, and similarly with B. Okay, mix all those 4 together. 2 oscillators from Prophet 5, 2 oscillators from the VS. Those 4 oscillators mixed together in the source mixer here, and then if we follow these little lines we can see which paths of the logic tree that the signal can travel down. Now at the moment there's only one blue light turned on, which means the signal can only travel up this way. It's blocked from the southern route. It travels into the VS's filter, and all 4 oscillators go through that filter circuit. This is critically important to understand. So if I just set the sound to the Prophet 5's oscillator A, I'm filtering that oscillator using the VS's filter bank. We come out of the filter bank into the VCA, so we're only travelling right here. We never come back on ourselves. Never. We follow the arrows, basically. If you see these little arrows, follow the arrows. So we travel into the VS VCA. So just to reiterate, only the VS amplifier is in use here. Prophet 5's amplifier isn't, so I can do anything I want with this amplifier envelope. It's not going to have any effect on the sound at all. It's not in use. As a matter of note, the master volume for the Prophet 5 is it's still supplying oscillators to the effect, so we do have control from the master volume. Okay, so that's one little blue light dealt with. Let's turn that one off and have a look at the southern route instead. What's going on now? Well, we're still mixing all 4 oscillators together, but this time we're going through the Prophet 5's filter bank instead. So, no effect whatsoever. That's where we've got our filter bank. And it is the entire filter bank, including the envelope. So this envelope, as we saw in a previous video, is controlled from this envelope amount knob here. Come out of the filter into the VCA, so now we do have control over the Prophet 5's amplifier. There's the long release I just set. And then we can turn both of those streams on simultaneously. So now the signal is flowing, the composite signal, all 4 oscillators, is being split. The signal's being split. One of them's been sent into the VS filter and then onto the VS VCA, and the second signal completely independently travels through the Prophet 5 circuitry. Turn both volume controls down, then we don't get any sound. There's the southern route. There's the northern route. Each of those filter and amplifier circuits is available to you in either combination, depending on which route you go down. And there's a third route as well. We engage that with this little button here. And what that means is that when the northern path, when the northern audio signal, which has just come out of the VS's filter bank, when it gets to this stage here, it splits again. Half of it goes to the, or I shouldn't say half of it, one of the signals goes to the VCA, the VS VCA, and can be output that way, but the second signal passes into the Prophet 5 filter. So this route here, we have a series filter configuration out of the VS into the Prophet 5 and out. And what you're going to get is a third completely independent audio signal. You just make out it's kind of enriching the sound. You've got that third completely independent signal. On top of all that, we can also get some noise out of the Prophet 5. So at the moment that noise is travelling through the VS filter and out of the VS VCA. Now it's travelling through the Prophet 5 filter and on to the Prophet 5 VCA. Both together. And then mix that back in with the sound. Okay, so that's all of your oscillator routing options available to you, and pretty hefty they are too. In addition to getting your head around the different signal paths that the audio can travel down, we also need to bear in mind that we've got new functionality in the modulation matrix. So when we dealt with the modulation matrix, part of it was greyed out because at that time we were only looking at the VS, but now we've got Prophet 5 options. So this is where I can configure the LFO of the Prophet 5 to edit the VS's cutoff value. Now the golden rule when you're looking at the mod matrix is if it says Pro 5, it's Pro 5. If it doesn't say Pro 5, it's VS. So they don't explicitly label the VS values. But so these frequency A, B, C and D, they're the frequency modulation destinations for the VS, and somewhere over here we've got frequency A and B Pro 5. There they are. So you can affect each of them. So here we've got the LFO of the Prophet 5 modulating the cutoff of the VS engine. Let's turn that up. There it is. So I don't propose to go through every option of the modulation matrix, but the important thing to bear in mind is that these two synthesizers can cross over, and settings from one synth can deal with another. Now at this stage, that's all we need to say about the hybrid mode. We've introduced it, but we only really get to see it stretch its muscles when we start looking at real world presets. So in the next episode, we're going to do our first preset deep dive. Yay! Best bit. And I'm going to try to pick sounds that are as integrated as possible so that we can see this relationship between the two synthesizers and how hybrid mode is genuinely a completely third synthesizer separate from the two independent ones. Looking forward to that. Deep dives are awesome. If you think so too and you want to see it, please hit subscribe and notifications, and then you'll find out when the next episode comes out. Hope to see you then. Thanks very much.